So thank you so much. We have been doing this session for many years now, and this is paradigm shift in microbial keratitis. Basically, how evidence has changed the way we practice the microbial keratitis, and there are talks in this session, so we will be going through them one by one. I would be talking to you about workup of case of microbial keratitis and the bacterial keratitis. The fungal keratitis would be dealt by Dr. Samar Basak, Director Desai Hospital, Barrackpur, Kolkata, from West Bengal. Viral keratitis, Professor Ritu Arora, uh, Head of the Cornea Department, GNEC, more importantly, Dean of the Maulana Azad Medical College, New Delhi. And then I would be talking to you about acanthamoeba keratitis if the time permits and therapeutic keratoplasty. And then we'll be joined in by Dr. Rajesh Fogla, who's going to be talking about glue and deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty in microbial keratitis. So, in this bacterial keratitis only, I will cover the workup of a case of keratitis. There are no financial interests or disclosures, and this is essentially how a classical case of Pseudomonas bacterial keratitis would look like. And these are the risk factors. So, the risk factors can be ocular or they can be systemic. The ocular include the corneal abrasion of the epithelial defect, eyelid disease, use of contact lens, previous ocular surgery, ocular surface disease, the compromised corneas, and also the injudicious use of topical antibiotics, corticosteroids, or traditional eye medicine. Now, the risk factors could also be systemic. So these include the use of immunosuppressive drugs, burns, chronic alcoholism, severe malnutrition, AIDS, malignancy, and rheumatoid arthritis, and extremes of age, which include the infancy and the old age. These are some of the pictures to show keratitis after use of traditional eye medicine such as honey. Then this is used because of the use of steroids. So notice there's so much of thinning here and perforation here. And this is a post-LASIK keratitis buttonhole flap and a edematous LASIK flap here. So the symptoms are redness, sensitivity to light, which is increased, or photophobia, visual acuity, which is decreased, pain, discharge, and associated conjunctivitis, which may be associated with gonococci, pneumococci, or Haemophilus. And it is important to do a good slit lamp examination to see the area and density of infiltration, size and depth of ulceration, size of the epithelial defect, degree of stromal edema, scleral involvement, or AC reaction. Now, it is always advisable to do a photo documentation of these cases so that you know how these cases follow up. But in case you do not have a photographic follow up, you can make a diagram, draw a diagram so that when the patient comes up for follow up, you know where the patient is. Now, this is just to show that you have to not only measure the size of the epithelial defect, but also the size of the infiltrate, which may be different from the size of the epithelial defect. And each time this as well as this have to be measured. And when the patient actually changes his position, then there may be the mobility of this hypopyon, and the fungal hypopyon is fixed, whereas the hypopyon due to the bacteria is mobile. And the grading of the ulcer is important, which could be mild, moderate, or severe. So mild is less than 2 millimeter, moderate is 2 to 5, severe is more than 5. Likewise, the depth is less than 20%, 20 to 50%, more than 50%, and infiltrate extent could be superficial mid to stroma or deeper than mid stroma, and the scleral involvement when there is none or when there is severe. So depending upon this, the treatment would go both for bacterial and for fungal keratitis, and that is why you should know the grade of the ulcer. Now, it was been clearly shown that the ulcers with a poor outcome are likely to be larger and they involve the posterior cornea, and they have the aspergillus species, or they occur in females. So this is just to highlight the features of severe microbial keratitis, how they are going to behave. Then you have classical pictures like that of Staph aureus. It's compromised, occurs in compromised corneas with local distinct borders and non-edematous surrounding cornea, absolutely clear cornea on all sides. Then you have pneumococcal species, which is rapidly progressive serpiginous ulcer with folds in the Descemet's membrane, hypopyon, and deep stromal abscess. Then Pseudomonas species, which has got ground glass stromal appearance, fulminant green yellowish discharge, with infiltration which occurs in 24 hours with a hypopyon diffuse epithelial grain. ring ulcer, which occurs in 48 to 96 hours, desmetocele and perforation, which occurs in 2 to 5 days. In mycobacteria species or atypical ulcers tend to occur after trauma. They are indolent. They have a classical cracked windshield appearance, which you can see here. The surrounding cornea is quite clear, and there is hardly any AC reaction. So again, this is a cracked windshield appearance which can be seen. The Moraxella ulcers, on the other hand, tend to be inferior. There is hardly any AC reaction. They are oval. They occur in diabetics, alcoholics, and malnourished. And the Nocardia ulcers have indolent or elevated hyphae edges with cracked windshield-like appearance. Satellite lesions are there, and they have a classical wreath-like pattern. Clinically, the clinical examiners can only predict what microbiologically the ulcer looks like only in about 3/4 of the cases. So microbiology remains the mainstay for all cases of microbial keratitis. So in all such cases, when you're doing the scrapes, it is important that you avoid the cotton swabs. Proparacaine can be used because that's the least bactericidal. Scraping should be done from the leading edge of the ulcer and from the center, and modified Kimura spatula may also be used. One can use gram stain and KOH, and most important smear is going to be KOH. So the grams will identify bacteria, yeast phase of dimorphic fungi and fungal hyphae as well. KOH will identify only fungal hyphae, and the acid fast is for man, that is Mycobacteria, Actinomyces, and Nocardia. Diagnostic culture media, for the cultures, it has to be sent, and the standard culture media is blood agar or chocolate agar, saprotes, dextrose agar for fungi, and apart from this, there can be supplemental media, so mycobacteria for LJ media, and acanthamoeba non-nutrient agar with E. coli. The bacterial cultures, the positivity rate is 40 to 73%, and everything which is related to this, including the contact lens solution, case, sutures, everything should be sent for culture. But sometimes the infiltrate may be like this, so you will have to actually remove the sutures and get the scrape out, or it may be a infectious crystalline keratopathy after LASIK flap, so you have to elevate this flap and take a scrape. At times it may be there in resect such as this, so you may have to take an intravitreal scissors and get that little bit piece of tissue out to send it for culture sensitivity. And sometimes there is an abscess present, so you may even do a short suture biopsy, take this needle through this and then send it for culture and sensitivity. And corneal biopsy is advocated for at least twice negative smear and culture with no clinical improvement. Partial thickness trepanation is done, and the tissue can be removed en bloc and can be bisected. Treatment strategies for mild ulcers and moderate ulcers are different. So if it is a mild ulcer less than 3 millimeters in size, not involving the visual axis, a monotherapy can be given with any of the fluoroquinolones. But if it is a moderate ulcer more than 3 millimeters in size involving the visual axis, then combination therapy has to be given, which is fortified cefazolin with tobramycin 1.3%, which should cover up for both the organisms, that is the gram-positive cocci and the gram-negative bacilli. So loading dose of monotherapy or combination therapy should be given round the clock for the initial 48 hours. And then you have to assess the clinical response in case of bacterial keratitis after 48 hours. These were the two randomized control trials that we did comparing moxiflox with the combination therapy in microbial keratitis for mild to moderate ulcers, and likewise gatiflox with combination therapy involving 200 plus patients. And this is again a study which looked at 1,823 subjects, 16 studies. This was a meta-analysis, and they found that there was no difference in healing, especially for mild to moderate ulcers. And when they didn't use a combination therapy, there was increase in ocular discomfort, chemical conjunctivitis, and white precipitate of ciproflox, which was increased. So for mild to moderate corneal ulcers, one can use fluoroquinolone, but for severe ulcers, one has to use combination therapy. Apart from this, the adjunctive therapy can be used in the form of cycloplegics, anti-glaucoma medications, and topical steroids. And this, of course, is a double-edged sword, and we'll be discussing about the steroids in the case of bacterial keratitis again. Systemic antibiotics, on the other hand, are required for perforated ulcers or impending perforation, post-perforating injuries, scleral involvement, or when the organism is Neisseria and Haemophilus. Now, the SCART or the steroids for corneal ulcer trial clearly showed that you can give topical steroids, and early use of topical steroids is especially beneficial in cases of low vision, in cases of central ulcers and deep ulcers. And non-nocardia keratitis and severe Pseudomonas keratitis did better when topical steroids were used. So suffice it to say that topical steroids can be used in case some of the cases, provided you have a culture report in hand, provided you've already loaded a case of bacterial keratitis for at least 48 hours with the antimicrobials, and provided you are absolutely sure that the ulcer is not nocardia, not atypical mycobacteria, and not fungal. So in all such cases, the topical steroids may be used. Now, the favorable signs will be when the area and the density of the infiltration decreases, the epithelial healing happens, the AC reaction decreases, and can modify antibiotics only if there is no clinical improvement, but taper when the clinical signs of improvement are there. Unfavorable signs are when there are problems of compliance, resistance. Then should look for other organisms like atypical bacteria, herpes, fungus, and protozoa, and other factors like dry eye, vitamin A deficiency, and exposure. Now, this is just to show when you need to change your antibiotics because it is not responding to the ones you have already given. Then these can be used in methicillin resistant staph, that is vancomycin, Pseudomonas keratitis, ceftazidime, Mycobacteria fortitum cheloni, amikacin, and clarithromycin systemically, Nocardia, amikacin or trimethoprim, sulfamethoxazole, and systemic trimethoprim as well as sulfamethoxazole. So this is just to show how we prepare cefazolin and how we prepare tobramycin for all those who want to understand how it is done, and the preparation of the vancomycin from the powder on how it is done. And then amikacin is given directly from the intravenous injectable uh, injectable form which is available. And then for trimethoprim or sulfamethoxazole, we use 16 milligram per ml and 80 milligram per ml. Then in cases which are resistant to everything, one can even use topical colistin 0.19%. And this is how it is prepared with 10 ml of distilled water to yield a concentration of 0.75%. And then you finally get to a concentration of 0.19% after further diluting it. So this is how your case should be. With each time you have to do a fluorescein staining, and it should lead to a corneal haze and response of the ulcer. And sometimes what can happen is that the patient is not resolving due to non-compliance. So when the patient came here, he did well. The size of the ulcer is decreasing. So is the hypopyon here. But notice the patient stopped medications at this point in time and again has come back to this. So compliance is very important and it should be ensured at all follow-up points. Apart from this, if the ulcer really doesn't respond, then there can be complications like perforation here, corneoaradic scar here. This is going into impending perforation. Then you can even have anterior staphyloma. So this is something which we should try to prevent. Then the surgical management indications are impending perforation, and when there is no response, one should, to reduce the microbial load, and the modality could be glue, or patch graft, or therapeutic keratoplasty, and I think we shall discuss this later. So early diagnosis and meticulous treatment are mandatory in cases of bacterial keratitis, and compliance and resistance are important issues in the event of non-resolution. Antibacterial should be used judiciously, and surgery may be required in recalcitrant cases. So thank you very much for your kind attention.